Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies preview for this weekend's game against Partick Thistle. A few bits to get through. Obviously, we've got the Queen of the South game where Accies won very comfortably 3-0 and scored possibly the goal of the season. Of the year. So we'll be discussing that. Obviously, got the game at Partick Thistle at the weekend. But we'll also be talking about our new signings. We'll have a January big podcast coming up soon to really go into depth with this. But the Accies have made two signings. So let's start there. I suppose, first of all, Brandon, what are your thoughts on our two signings? Are you excited by them? Do you have a favourite of which one you're going to be looking out for more this season?
Well, I think the one that we'll definitely see more of will be Daniel O'Reilly. He's, from what I've led to believe, he's been there a while. So it's been one that's sort of been in the pipeline to happen for some time now. So it's not as if it was a sort of out-the-blue signing. I think we were all made aware of it a couple of months ago. And yeah, he's obviously been playing regular football. He was a captain from time to time at his club. And from what I saw at the weekend there, he looked fairly comfortable, although he wasn't really tried or tested that much, but he looked comfortable. And he's came with plaudits from the league, from the fans he's came from, and also David Elibert. So it's a decent signing considering where we are. Wouldn't be the first position I'd go for if I were to bring in players, but we've been talking about how we're lacking in depth in majority of areas within the squad, and we're very thin. So it's a good signing, and yeah, just look forward to seeing more of him so we can actually get a better understanding of what type of player he is. But from what we've seen so far and what we've heard, he's a sort of comfortable sort of ball on the deck centre back, left-footed centre back as well. So good to bring in depth within that position. And
do you think it's a little bit of forward planning as well? Well, obviously, Pescu, he'll be most likely going back at the end of the season. He could possibly not with us. You get Brian Easton possibly retiring. We could lose starman Jamie Hamilton. So maybe a little bit of forward planning for the club.
Definitely forward planning. I think which Stuart Taylor has said, and credit's due to him when he says he's forward planning his signings. He's obviously looking to the summer of who he's signing, etc. So he's talking about this plan and how it'll take time to sort of develop and whatnot. So it's definitely forward thinking. Jamie Hamilton's obviously out of contract. He's free to talk to any club at the present moment. Fingers crossed the club managed to sort of tie him down. I'm not hopeful, but like you said, Pescu as well, Easton, he's getting on. So it's definitely a position that we're going to need to have players in that position within. So a good signing all round, and hopefully just we see a bit more of them. I'm sure we will at the weekend as well. And yeah, good signing all round with the Daniel O'Reilly one.
Yeah, and you can see, I always like obviously to look at the Twitter of the former club to see the reaction. And obviously it's a lot of fans saying how big a miss he'll be. As you said, he captained them a few times as well. So looks to be a big loss for them, and possibly, as you said, fingers crossed, a good player for us when he comes. Another signing is Ellis Brown. Somebody who, even if you Google, you don't find much about. From what we can find, he's a 19-year-old winger. Can also play fullback. It was signed for an undisclosed fee from Boreham Wood. Now, the thing that most people picked up on, myself included, is that he's never made a first-team senior appearance for Boreham Wood, only for their academy, but seems to be very, very highly rated down there. He's came up here, got his debut on Saturday as well. As we said, on paper, much like Daniel O'Reilly, it's not a position we're screaming out for a signing for, but is it a young, interesting, exciting winger to maybe bring in and develop our own side? Is that how you see it, or is this a bit of a strange one to bring in?
Strange one, in my opinion. I've been reading the sort of comments on Twitter, and then you've got people mentioning like Mikael Miller and Tunde. They players have came with a pedigree behind them when we've sort of brought them in. These Mikael Miller scored an abundance of goals down there, although it was a very low tier of English football. He came with a background and a pedigree. Tunde was the same. So I can kind of grasp that the comparison slightly, because it's that sort of similar level of football they're coming from, but there's absolutely nothing on Ellis Brown when you look anywhere online. I saw one boy obviously saying, "Oh, you've got a good academy player coming to yourselves here." Obviously a Boreham Wood fan, but I suppose we're lacking in depth. But it's a weird one. We don't know much about him, so you can't exactly really be critical or make a judgment on it. He's obviously came on and at the weekend there and nearly scored straight away. But I suppose we're just sort of adding depth to the squad, but we don't know really much about him. I think he's been here is once again, as far as I'm led to believe. I'm sure. I think you said you saw him a few times in the stadium. My mates have saw they've seen him. So he's obviously been here for a while. It's another one that's been sort of in the pipeline, and they've just he's been embedded in the squad, and he's obviously been training with the squad, and they've waited until sort of midnight, and that's when they can sign him. I'm very sceptical of the undisclosed fee. I doubt that'll be anything.
Couple of bits. Yeah,
I think they just need to sort of say that, because technically he was still in contract as an academy player down south, so there'll be very buttons within that. But you'd hope that, obviously when Stuart Taylor first came in, what he said is if he's going to bring any player in, he doesn't want to just bring them in for the sake of it. It needs to be the right player. He made that extremely clear to us at the start of the season when he came in. And then when we put potential signings towards him about strikers, etc., that we were all crying out for, that was the message in which he gave us. So you would hope that both with Daniel O'Reilly and with Ellis Brown being there for a period of time, he would be continuing this sort of mindset of, he doesn't just want to bring these players in, he obviously must hopefully see something within them to actually go ahead with it, and we're not just getting signings for the sake of it, so we look like we're actually doing business in January. So we'll just need to take his word for it. We'll go with it, and fingers crossed Ellis Brown's one that does develop into a player. But it's good to get obviously a bit of business done early on for a change, and just hopefully these are the first two of many, because there's certainly different positions that we also need to recruit in if we want to push up and ensure that we finish off strongly, which we are capable of doing. We just need a few extra hands, and also to add depth and add players into the squad for the future and for next season as well.
Absolutely. Now, like I said at the start, when we do our podcast for transfers, we'll go into more depth about what positions we think we need, and we'll maybe throw some names in there for targets for the club to possibly sign. Brandon, as we said, we always say you basically quoted the whole Wraith team last season. That would have been great signings, but try and do it again.
They're all gone now, so
they're all gone, so no chance. But let's look back to the Queen of the South game we mentioned briefly. So far this season, we're unbeaten against Queen of the South, so I was fairly confident going into the game. I was fairly confident we would win. We stuck with the same setup and system. We've discussed that many times about would he change it, and he didn't. But yeah, listen, the system worked. We do have to say we were playing against one of the worst sides in the league, and they were down to 10 men for the majority of the game, so that does need to be mentioned. But still played very well from what I'm hearing. I wasn't able to watch the game, unfortunately. But Brandon, how do you think we played overall? Did the 10 men make a difference, or were we already the stronger team before that?
Yeah, no, we were the stronger team before it, but of course, when you're playing probably the worst team in the league, if not the worst, definitely the top three of the worst teams in the league, obviously them having the sort of the guy
captain as well.
Captain didn't miss a single game all last. When I found that was funny, aged like a fine wine. That tweet went well, but that obviously benefited us. But no, before that, we were certainly on the front foot. We were the better team. I'm not the biggest fan of the system, but no, in the setup, sorry, but it worked. It certainly worked. I wasn't confident in going in yet, because I felt that our performances were just, although the results the past 5 games sort of are better than what they were at the start of the season, so we are showing progress. I just thought the consistency was very on off, but no, credit where credit's due. We definitely deserved to win the game. We started the game well. We took the game to them. Had a few chances early on where we could have scored. Moyo could have scored. We were pressing them. And then we got the penalty, which once again, so bad.
It's such a poor
bad penalty, honestly. I genuinely, me and you could have saved that. I think any of the people watching could have saved that. Just past 3 penalties. I don't know what they do in training. They obviously don't do penalties in training. I don't know if it's just lack of confidence, but Moyo follows it up. When you see it, it's obviously Accies have given it as Mullen. I think all the other outlets have followed that up by giving it to Mullen. It's clearly Moyo's goal.
You're fine for that. You're fine for David Moyo to get that goal.
Video proof it. But it does well to obviously run into it and get the goal. After the penalties obviously went in, they went down to the 10 men, like I just mentioned, and it was pretty much cruise control from there on. The 10 men's really helped us, but we played some lovely football. It really could have been 5, 6 or 7 if we just had better finishing. And if our final, the only thing I'd fault about the game was just our final ball, which is the thing that me and you go on about constantly. We create chances. It's clear as day. We always create chances. But there's no player that had a bad game, in my opinion. It was hard to sort of pick out an individual because it was such a good team performance. They played football. There was none of this punting the ball up, long balls. It was actually playing nice football, which we've been crying out for as well, because we know the players are more than capable of doing it. We've scored the second goal, which Jamie Hamilton deserved. I think Jamie Hamilton, although I've said you can't single players out, Jamie Hamilton really deserved his goal because he was outstanding. Just back to sort of that level of performance, which was the reason which clearly has been the one that always stands out for us. Just a total powerhouse at the back and just absolutely glided through the game. And then next comes the, what is it? Tiki-takis.
Tiki-takis. I'm not having that with the SPFL admin.
I'm not having that, but no, it was as I said, goal of the year of 2022. Not that it was getting much competition, but no, it was a brilliant goal. As it's been compared to, reminiscent of Bingham's at Easter Road a few years ago, and no, just caps off a brilliant performance. I know you've obviously watched the goal this time, so what was your thoughts on it?
Just outstanding, mate. No really other words for it. Just to see us playing football on the deck, as you said, was so good to see. How nearly every player on the pitch touched the ball before the goal. It starts at Daniel O'Reilly. It goes through Ronan Hughes, who had a brilliant assist for the Jamie Hamilton goal as well, the back heel. Lovely little flick. You know, everybody just was involved. Everyone was on it. And as you said, very reminiscent of the Racks at Hibs. I'm interested, what do you prefer? Because that was the talk online. Do you prefer the Racks versus Hibs, or do you prefer the Queen of the South?
It's hard to make a decision. I wasn't at Easter Road. I was actually in Magaluf when that goal happened.
Sure.
And I remember actually the goal coming through on my phone and going mental and shouting to the people that were outside at the pool about that goal happening. So it's not even as if I was at the game, so that sort of edges it for me. It's a hard one. I think probably I'd go for the Mullen one, just because we've been crying out for that type of play for so long, and it's because we know we're capable of it. We've got the young players that should be exciting to watch and should be sort of expressing themselves, and that's the type of football we really want to see under Stuart Taylor, because we know the players are capable of doing so. And credit's due. We played the ball on the deck all throughout the match. They've got 10 men, which makes it easier for us, but we just played with a bit of sort of cockiness in our stride. We played with confidence, and then that goal just completely rounded it off. So I'd probably just go for the Mullen goal over the Keith Bingham goal. But both goals are just amazing goals, and both tiki-takis.
Oh, bro, we're going to use that in the tweet to put this out. That will be a good laugh. Listen, let's look ahead to the weekend's game against Partick Thistle. We're coming in exactly the same amount of form. Both clubs have 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss, so neither side's edge it in form. Fair to say Partick Thistle are having a much better season than us, though. Obviously, they have beat us at both opportunities. One humiliating 6-1 loss at home, and the other one a tight 1-0 win. But realistically, I think they deserve to win that game. Ultimately, they were much more experienced and just showed their experience in that game and holding out and then nicking the winner. So let's look ahead to the weekend. I'm not confident, if I'm being honest, not because of the previous results. But more because whenever Accies do get a good result and they are confident in the next game, it never ever goes our way. So I can see Partick winning this one. I am hopeful it'll be a lot closer than the 6-1 last time we were at home. I do think it'll be a lot closer, but I just think Partick, unfortunately, will edge this one. That's my opinion. What are you expecting for this weekend?
I mean, we've obviously heard Stuart Taylor come out and say that there's a sort of few COVID scares as well, so that might sort of deplete the squad. We obviously know Moyle's away to the AFCON as well, so we don't know what the squad's going to be or what the first team's going to be, so that could have a huge impact on it. Although our results are starting to show a bit more promise, and we are sort of shoring up, if you want to call it that, results-wise, because at the start of the season and maybe the start of sort of Taylor's tenure, we weren't getting any results and getting sort of one win about 5 games or whatever the sort of record was. But now we are starting to get results and we're maybe getting what we deserve because we have been creating chances throughout every match. It's just the result, those sort of fine margins, and then we were getting beat. So I think it will be a lot closer than obviously the 6-1 game. I hope now that we've played them twice, the second game we played them in, they deserved to win, but it was obviously a lot closer than the 6-1. And we're starting to pick these results up. The players look a lot closer. Mm-hmm. You see them all celebrating together. They actually look happier. Stuart Taylor looks happier. He's actually smiling. And since John Rankins came in, the results have dramatically improved. Like you say, I'm not going to get carried away after the win because each time we get a win, I think all Accies fans just seem to forget what's went on the past season and sort of how poor we have been at stages. Which I think it's the same in any football really. As soon as your team gets a win, everything's sort of forgotten until the next game. But I just hope they use that 6-1 game as a reminder to hopefully say, like, look what's happened that game. Do not let that happen again. Go and fucking prove a point. Go and show that you're different for that game. And we come out guns blazing and we get a result. It just it's got to be a tough one. We don't know what the team's going to be. There's a lot of rumours that people are out, etc. So it's one that I'm very unsure on. I hope we get the result and we sort of do kick on this year because, as I keep saying and as you keep saying, we know we're more capable of where we are sitting in the league and we should probably be in that sort of top 6. Although they've played 2 less games than us, it's probably seen as a sort of 6-pointer for us because if in that game we cut the sort of gap between ourselves and 6th and we can really sort of push on in 2022 to sort of get that top half, which if you said that the first couple of months of the season, you would think that the person telling you that was cuckoo because we looked like on a relegation battle, and we probably still do at the present moment. So if we get this result on Saturday, it means that we can kick on and sort of look forward rather than sort of still having that sort of nervy looking behind us.
Yep, absolutely. What we're starting to do now, especially you can see in the table, is we are starting to make a bit of a gap between where we are, which is pretty much bang mid-table, and the kind of bottom half. And so we're in this kind of no man's land of we're still a few points behind the top half, but we're pulling away. We're still a few points, away from the top half, but we're pulling away from the bottom half. So we're in this really kind of horrible mid-ground. And as you said, this 3 points will be just another step forward to push further forward. You mentioned
it just shows you that what a couple of results can do within the league, especially when you are sort of in that bottom sort of end of the league. Because look, we went on a 5-game period where we've, as you said, we've got a couple of wins, a couple of draws. And that sort of pulled us away. So we're not, don't get me wrong, we're not out of that by no means because like Morton have brought in Emery, when are recruiting players, etc. So a couple of results for the sort of teams will pull them away from it as well. So it's a very close league, but we've got a sort of momentum on us just now, which we really need to sort of keep going with, and we need to sort of get a bit of consistency this year, which fingers crossed we start with on Saturday. And we just need to go for it. But like you say, I'm not overly confident.
Yeah, and let's talk about David Moyle. You mentioned he's away to the Africa Cup of Nations. We wish him the best of luck with Zimbabwe, but he will be a massive loss for us as well. We'll be away for a good few weeks. As much as he gets a lot of stick, he's been performing really well. He's got 4 goals this season, I believe it was. How big of a loss will David Moyle be? Because the way Stan Taylor likes to play, it does suit David Moyle's game.
Yeah, look, obviously you say I'm his biggest fan, but he's the way in which he's played recently. It's hard to sort of have too much sort of it's hard to be too critical of him recently because of how decent he has played in comparison to what fans might see him as a player. His touches aren't the best, and there's a lot of chances where if you do have a better player up top, then we might have won these sort of games 6-0. But we don't have a better player up top. We've only got him and Ryan. Obviously, Winter coming back. So, under the circumstances and the way in which Stan plays, he has been doing a good job up top. He's been getting a lot more chances recently because we're playing slightly better than what we have been, and it's hard to sort of criticise him too much. I think he scored a few goals and he's been a nuisance. He's been running about constantly. He's been sort of getting in the way of things. He's been winning the ball in the air when we're not playing the ball on the deck. He's winning the ball in there and he's defending well as well. So his overall game has been decent. So he definitely is going to be a miss. And I think that's why it's key we do sign a player in January, because we don't know how far Zimbabwe's going to go. Plus, we've been crying out for a striker since before that, but we'll touch on that obviously next week. So he needs to really go up the front way, up top with Andy Ryan on Saturday, and I think that's the only option he can do. He has done that a few games already, and Ryan has scored a few goals. I just hope Ryan's confidence isn't not too much. I don't think he's perhaps been fully fit. That's why he's not really played too much games recently. But yeah, just come back in, and hopefully Ryan just is a general nuisance for himself, and we continue to play the ball on the deck, which will suit him a lot more. Hopefully we just continue sort of the style of play we did play with in Queen of the South, and that will suit Andy Ryan a lot more. But no, he's definitely going to be a miss Moyle.
Well, let's talk about how we think the team will set up. As we said, he's not going to change. He's working at the moment. But as you said, David Moyle's not there. So are you playing Andy Ryan through the middle and then having, say, Smith and Redfern on the wings? Are you having Andy Ryan continue to be out right and Andy Winter through the middle? How are you setting up that front three?
Front three, I would go with... See, this is one thing I actually want to ask you about. When we signed Josh Mullen, it was sold to us as a sort of winger/forward from the Livy fans, and I think 95% of Accies fans would have thought that's what he was when he came to us. He's playing that game against Queen of the South. It was probably our deepest line midfield.
Yep.
I don't understand this, and I want to hear what your sort of thoughts are on this, because do you think it's just because Taylor doesn't really think he's got a better option in midfield, so he's using a player that he feels might not particularly be his best position, but he's a better option than what we've got? Or what do you think the logic is behind him playing probably not in a role which is his main role, which his main role has been previously?
I think what you've said spot on. I think he doesn't have a better option. You're right. He came in as a winger who can play kind of wing back, so a very wide attacking player. And we played him central, and that was something. I think it was we asked at one of the press conferences after the game about the positioning, and he said he spoke to Josh and talked about moving his position to something more central to be involved in the play more, given how good he is on the ball. So I can understand that. But in terms of lying deep, I think he used him as the Mimnall replacement, somebody who will just sit deep and is comfortable in the ball and can play passes from that deep position. And as you said, I just think he doesn't have a better option with Mimno out at the moment. And so he's asking Josh Mullen to drop into a deeper role, because otherwise you're stuck with, say, Virtanen, who, as much as he's been playing all right recently, he's not like a playmaker, and he's not comfortable necessarily on the ball. You don't want him dictating play. Whereas the Mimno role that he's taken up this season, that is what Mimno does. And I think, as you said, he just doesn't have a better option. So he's had to move Mullen back, who, on paper, and I think if you ask Livy fans, they'll say he's probably the best player we have in terms of creativity in the midfield at the moment. It's a position we're crying out for as well. But so I think he's just having to use what's there. And it's a little bit like round pegs and square holes, but he can't really do anything else at the moment. That's my opinion of it. He's forced into that. I think in an ideal world, we'd have a better player than Mimno, but in an ideal world, Mimno would be in that midfield. We would have Scott Martin and, say, somebody else in the middle, and then he would be playing Mullen further forward, either on the wings, in an ideal world. But we don't live in that. We live as an Accies fan, and that's not what we get.
So, on that note, my front three would be Andy Ryan, Redfern and Smith.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think Marley Redfern is going to be an absolute star. I love watching Marley. I think he's so clever for somebody so young. He's very small and he looks very lightweight, but he doesn't come across at that when he plays. I don't think he gets bullied off the ball an awful lot. I'm really excited to see he's in that period that Lewis Smith was in when he first came into the team, where you were always looking for him because you knew he would be able to take somebody on and beat a man and put a cross in. I'm really excited to see what Marley Redfern does. But let's talk about Daniel O'Reilly. He's obviously started against Queen of the South, played the full 90 minutes. We don't know the situation with like Brian Easton and that, but I imagine you'll continue to see him starting that left centre-back. Is that where you see him in the team as well?
Yeah, I don't think you can drop him. You don't know the sort of situation with Brian Easton, if Sean Want's still injured or whatnot. So I don't think it's, as I always go on about, it's not really fair. Even if they're not the best player in that position, I don't really think it's fair that you drop players if they've played a good previous game. So I think you continue Daniel O'Reilly and Popescu. I was laughing at Popescu with the Queen of the South fans. You could hear it loud as day. It was sort of saying to them what the fans were giving him back. So I was very intrigued that he was captain. I don't know if that's maybe something for the future. Maybe him. I don't think he'll get a deal at Hearts. So maybe he'll be with us next season as well. Maybe that's why Taylor's sort of trying to embed him as sort of leader in the team. But I
said that off camera. Sorry to interrupt. I said that off camera. I think that his Heart deal won't be extended, and I can see him coming to us permanently. Sorry.
No, of course. But I think he's been a decent signing. I think when he's been beside Easton, he's been a much better player. Yeah. And he's been a lot more composed. But against Queen of South, O'Reilly looked decent as well. So I think it'd be wrong to sort of interrupt that partnership, judging by how sort of composed and decent a game they had, although they weren't sort of challenged much at the weekend there. And then I think this is a tough one, because a lot of people saying Matthew Shields had a good game. If Mark is back and Mark is fit, I just think you need to put Mark in. If we're going to play a certain style of football, he wasn't in team of the division last year for no reason. He's a really good player. He's exciting going forward. So I'm contradicting myself by saying if a player's had a good game, to drop him with Shields. But another point you could probably do there is you maybe put Shields right back, you put Mark a left back, or you change that, and then you put Jamie Hamilton in the holding role. But then Hamilton had a good game at right back as well, which isn't his normal position. But me and you have mentioned so many times about putting Jamie Hamilton in front of that centre back role. So it's a tough one, and that's the reason we're not football managers. It's not for us to make. We just can criticise and judge when they don't do what we want to do. But I would bring Maka back, try and fit. That's what I would do. I'd put Maka or Shields right or left back, and then put Jamie Hamilton in the holding role with Virtanen, and then Mullen in centre. That's what I would do. But I think what he'll do is put Virtanen, Mullen and Hughes, continue with Shields at left back. So I think the only change we'll see from Queen of the South will be Ryan Fermoil.
Interesting. Well, listen, let's get the score predictions done. David get 4 points last week. I was raging because I saw we were 2-0 up and thought, spot on, Ben, get in. And obviously we ended up scoring goal of the season, so that was a good laugh. But listen, let's get some more points on the board. I am going to go with, I think it'll be 1-0 Partick again. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll score. And as I said earlier on, I think they'll just edge it. I think they're a much more experienced side. They're really, really well organised. They don't really let anything slip. You very rarely get a chance, a real proper chance against Partick Thistle, especially with the way they're playing now. So I'm going to say they edge it, unfortunately. I'm going to go 1-0.
I'm going to go with 1 each. As I say, it's hard to be sort of confident because we go into these games, we win games, and then, as per usual, we always get overly confident and forget about how we've performed the last games before the previous games. So I really hope we do continue the sort of style of play we've played against Queen of the South, and we do kick on and we sort of get consistency going into 2022. But as Taylor says, it's a process, I think, and I just don't think we're at the right stage of that yet. So 1 each I'll go for, but I really do hope that we come out and sort of get sort of vengeance for that 6-1 pumping that, it was very grim. So hopefully we can start the new year with 2 wins in a row. And just before we finish, I just want to wish my deepest condolences to the family of David Tamlin. David Tamlin was someone who I played football with at the Accies Vaults, which was a supporters club initially started up for all Accies fans. David was a character. He was such a nice guy, and he'll be well known throughout the Accies support, and also just well known throughout the town of Hamilton. Such a nice guy and such a good, vibrant person to be around. And unfortunately, Davey lost his wife throughout the Christmas period there. So yeah, I just want to wish my condolences to his family, and yeah,